So these days, Google is known for Chrome OS and Android, but have you ever heard of gOS, a Linux distro based on Ubuntu that incorporated a lot of Google apps and services? I hadn't either until a viewer sent me an email about it recently, and perhaps the most interesting thing about it is it wasn't actually made by Google. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So gOS was just a little blip on the Linux radar that sprung up in 2007 and aimed to be an operating system centered around Web 2.0. So you've got shortcuts to Gmail, Google Calendar, Docs, Maps, YouTube, Blogger, a lot of Google stuff. But the G in gOS actually stands for good. Although I think it's kind of meant to associate it with Google without, making it seem like it was made by them. And this is not to be confused with Google's internal use Linux distro called Ubuntu, which was later replaced by gLinux. gOS was only around for a couple of years, with the latest version being released in early 2009. So in today's episode, I'm going to take you through a few versions of this distro, and we'll explore how it changed over its very short lifespan. And if you want to take a look at these yourself, you can download the ISOs from archiveos.org. They've got a page over here with some information about it, and they do have a handful of ISOs available. Not all of them, but you've got the first release, the very last release, and a couple in between. We're going to go through all of these four today, of course starting with the initial release, version 1.0.1. But the really cool thing is you weren't able to just download this from the website. There was also a computer sold at Walmart that came pre-installed with it. At the time, the tech press started calling this the Google PC, or the almost Google PC, and this is actually what the viewer who first emailed me about this was mainly talking about. This was a sub $200 computer that sold very, very quickly. According to this Desktop Linux article, Walmart bought 10,000 of them, released it on November 1st, and by the 15th, they were already sold out. But they also had a version that shipped with Windows Vista that had double the RAM and apparently a much faster processor. I mean, 1.5 gigahertz from 1.5 megahertz? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, of course, this is a lovely typo here. But yeah, the Windows Vista one shipped for around $100 more. And you can see it is a little bit of a different design as well, but you still got, a set of speakers and a keyboard and mouse with it, no monitor included. But, $200, not even, for a whole desktop computer was pretty fantastic. Both of these were manufactured by a company called Everix, who would later go on to make a couple of laptops and even a mini PC that also ran gOS. So this is one of those rare Linux distros that actually had a line of hardware to go along with it. And if I can ever track one of those machines down, you bet I'm going to make a video on it. But for now, let's dive into the operating system itself. So the first version of gOS was based on Ubuntu 7.10, and it was released on November 1st, 2007. And it came on a live CD. I've already gone through the installation process, but it was pretty much identical to what you would see on a regular install of Ubuntu that was available at this time. However, the desktop interface itself is very different. It utilizes the Enlightenment window manager as opposed to GNOME. And you see we have a dock down here, we got your icons right here, a Google search bar at the top right, and then what look like a couple widgets here on the sidebar. This is a clock, and this is just your network status indicator. It shows your current network connection and your IP address there. And with this whole operating system being focused around Web 2.0, the vast majority of these shortcuts in the dock just open up various websites. So you've got Gmail, Meebo, which will later be acquired by Google, Google News, Calendar, Maps, Google Docs and Spreadsheets, Google Product Search. Then you have some non-Google things like Facebook, you got Wikipedia, Skype. Although you do have a couple of desktop applications in the dock as well. You have a movie player and Rhythmbox. Tech support opens up a web browser. I mean, you can see that Google is the primary focus of this entire operating system. Though, there is this little menu here on the left side. You can open that up, go into applications. And there is a good selection of apps in here, even some GNOME applications, especially under games here. But you've also got things like GIMP. You've got OpenOffice. You got the rest of the suite here under the Office tab. You've got a CD/DVD writer. Internet, you can see, is one of the larger categories, mostly Google stuff in here. All this is pretty much pinned to the dock with the exception of Mozilla Thunderbird and the Pigeon Instant Messenger. And this menu can also be accessed just by left-clicking on the desktop, and you can also right-click to get access to your favorites menu, which is also in this menu here in just the regular left-click menu. So this can be changed if you go into configuration. And as you'll see, when we open up Windows and stuff, the theme they've got applied here is very, very Mac-like. My immediate thought was, oh, this is just Aqua with some green accents. I mean, it is a little bit different, obviously, but it definitely reminds me of that. Under menus and favorites menu is where you get access to be able to change everything in there. So if I want to just, remove Facebook and Blogger and add maybe, let's see, database, you got openoffice.org, we can add that, hit OK, close out of it, and now if you right-click, there you go. So we can open up that right from there if we want to. There is also a file browser, not surprisingly. We can make this a little bit larger here. Again, the icons and everything just kind of give off a macOS vibe to me. But you can get access to your home directory from here. So it's not strictly something like, the early Chrome OS versions where it was like just the web browser and you couldn't really access, I mean, you could, but it wasn't really easy to access the, file system and all that. It kind of feels almost like the later versions of Chrome OS, just to make that comparison again, where you now have more of a traditional desktop interface, which I think is pretty cool. You got your Google search bar up here. Let's go ahead and do a search for Michael MJD. And of course, this is, this browser is so out of date that it's not even going to be able to display really anything properly. Now this, it looks like it opens up in a embedded browser window here. This is something that we will see in later versions of gOS, but it's not the case when you open up like Gmail and stuff from down here. These all just open up in regular Firefox tabs. Also, the version of Firefox, if you're curious, is version 2.0.0.8. I imagine probably the latest version for Linux that was available when this thing was released. Now these widgets over here on the right side actually work through the same program that the dock is using, but the dock is actually like one widget, and then you've got a separate widget for the menu over here, and this can all be configured in the configuration, obviously, under, I believe it is Windows, no, it's under extensions. Yeah, you got shelves here. So shelf 1 is the dock, shelf 8 are the widgets on the side, so we'll configure the widgets, configure contents, and you can add, whatever else you want. So, I mean, right now you've got the network indicator thing, you've got the clock, you can add the battery indicator, which of course isn't going to really matter for us. You've got a CPU gauge there, a temperature, so we can add all that. Go ahead and apply. Oh, I just actually changed the size of them there, apparently. Actually, how did I just change the sizing of them? I didn't want to do that. And the layout, yeah, this moves it up there, obviously, and now we can't... Okay, we gotta just, I guess, go in here and manually set it back to there. And then the size, yeah, we want this to be like much larger than it was. Okay, there we go. That looks a lot better. So you got some advanced settings. It's just that like huge here as a size was actually a lot smaller than what it was. So we can close out of that. Now shelf 1, if we go into configure and contents, you can see that you've got start, iBar, and iBox. iBar is the dock. Under applications, you've got iBar applications, and then this is where you can go in and we could remove Gmail and Meebo if you want to, and now they will be gone. But yeah, a lot of customizability, and we haven't even gotten into the theme yet, by the way. You can go in here and change that. I haven't actually looked to see what these other themes look like, but here's Bling. So that totally changed the... Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, the menus are like way different now. Look at that, with this like effect going on when you hover over everything. The spacer here just looks really off. And yeah, I mean, the icon stayed the same. The Google search bar up here stayed the same. So now that kind of looks out of place. I don't even know, like, was this theme supposed to be in here? I feel like it wasn't, because it just doesn't go with anything that they have. We'll just go ahead and change it back. It looks like gOS 2 is probably just the same thing as the default theme. Yeah, I mean, this looks exactly the same. It's probably just the default theme is like a separate entry in here. So there you go. And also one other thing, this did support multiple desktops. You can go here under desktop, virtual, configure virtual desktops. We could add another one if we want to. And then you can change desktops by just going in here and changing over to desktop 1, and you see it takes the search bar away. I would imagine that a lot of this stuff, like if we want to on desktop 1 here, get rid of this and then switch back over to desktop 0. Oh no, that actually takes effect across both of them. Okay, so that's interesting. But yeah, it supported virtual desktops, And honestly, like, there's just a lot of customizability in this operating system, which I really like. So that is the very first version. Our next release, this happened in early 2008, and this is actually a beta version of 2.0. It still uses the Enlightenment desktop window manager, but it changed some elements around. So you can see we have a new dock down here, definitely a more macOS-like dock with the zoom in animation as you hover over everything. There is a virtual desktop switcher up here at the top, and the gadgets in the search bar are gone, at least by default. What has not changed, though, is the dock still has a bunch of Google stuff pinned to it, although you do have a shortcut to box.net now, and new icons for the movie and music player, though they are the same applications that were in the previous version. However, they did remove that little shortcut that would open up this menu from the dock, so now you have to just left-click on the desktop to get to it. You can also right-click to get to your favorites menu. And this one, admittedly, I did not mess around with as much as I did the previous version, so I'm curious to go in here and see, like, if we can modify the dock here, which it looks like we can. So this is iTask NG now, and we can change the zoom range and the zoom duration. We can change, yeah, here's the icon size, so we can increase the size of the dock. We can have it up top or maybe to the right if we want to. Although on the right, it doesn't actually show everything. We'd have to change the icon size, but we'll have it at the bottom. You can also add a taskbar because there's not one by default. So if we want to add one to, you know, like be able to see what applications are open, like if we are in Firefox here, we'll just cancel all this stuff and just resize the window. You can see there's no like indicator in here at all that Firefox is running, but if we add a taskbar, you can see over here, this is our list of running applications. And let's see if we can change this. Like, can we change just that over here? No, that moves the whole thing. So can you not, I guess you can't have the taskbar be like just on the top of the screen or, you know, in a separate location than the dock. It looks like it's attached to it. But admittedly, you don't really need a taskbar because 90% of what you're going to be doing is just in Firefox, because all these shortcuts still, like if you go to YouTube, it opens up Firefox. Oh, we got an enlightenment error. This is very bad. You got this like early classic macOS looking error message here. I guess we'll say recover. Yeah, again, this was a beta, so you know there's bound to be bugs and stuff in it. So that's how you change the dock. Can we like drag stuff off the dock? Like, okay, yeah, we can do that. So just like macOS, you can get rid of stuff. Can we add things to the dock? I don't think we can. Some things that remain are the file manager. So you've got this this same thing going on. We can go into my gOS and you've got your same icons and everything there. I'm actually not sure if the widgets that we saw over there on the right in the previous version are still here, but let's go into configuration and find out. Now the settings menu here is pretty much identical to what we saw before. It's going to be under, I believe, what was it, menus or no, extensions. So here's shelves. I imagine like this is probably on a shelf down here. Like, let's see what this is. So we've got pager. That's probably the top thing up here. Like, let's go ahead and remove that. Yeah. So that's a shelf up there. Shelf number 2 maybe is the clock over here. Yep. And so shelf 3 is going to be the dock, which is just going to contain like a single, yeah, iBox. So that's this is the dock again, the icon box gadget. So we can add a new one and go into here, configure. We'll move it over here to, or actually I want to go to, where's the advanced configuration? Yeah, we'll move it over here and then go into contents. It's got the pager and the iBox again, but we don't have as many gadgets to add. So we've got the clock, which I guess is just, I think, yeah, that's the same thing that was up here. It's just not going to really show properly now because it's on the side and it doesn't like adjust orientation automatically. And then you've got this navigation thing. You've got EFM path. Let's maybe move this to the top so that everything displays properly. And that is a lot of white space, like my gosh. But yeah, it looks like, yeah, these are just navigation buttons. Well, I think we saw those in the file manager too. Yeah, that's exactly what they are. So I don't think these do anything just on the desktop, but I guess maybe the file manager is utilizing the shelves to display this properly. That's actually interesting. In fact, yeah, you can see it's overlapped on top of the address bar. But it doesn't look like you've got as many gadgets as you did before. However, gadgets will make a reappearance in a later release. Not the next one though, but oh boy did the next one really change up the formula. So this right here is version 2.9, or the Space Release, that came out in April of 2008. And as you can see, it gets a whole UI redesign. The dock is different, the wallpaper is different, we have a menu bar now. It uses GNOME as the desktop environment, so you can no longer like left click on the desktop to get to that menu. Right clicking is now just a regular context menu. But the really bizarre thing about this one is you might be able to tell from some of these icons, this is a MySpace centered release of gOS. So hey, I guess if you ever thought it would be cool if there was a MySpace focused operating system, well, there was one. So if you go in here, you've got all these shortcuts to various MySpace pages. You've got MySpace news here under this category. You can see you've got like a Mac OS X stacks thing going on with all of these shortcuts down here now. And you do still have all of the Google stuff in here that we had before. It's just not as prevalent now. But to get to like the whole list, you have to go up in here to applications, internet, and then here's all the rest of the Google stuff. Though you can see most of them do not have icons like they did before. So that's interesting. You do still have your list of games in here. We're slowly adding more and more programs, so there are some things in here you didn't have before. Like now you've got a sound recorder and sound juicer CD extractor and this audio CD creator. You still have OpenOffice, but they have definitely doubled down on making the thing look like Mac OS X. I mean, even this music icon here looks like the iTunes icon. As we open up stuff, like if I go to Firefox here, I mean, this theme is so Mac OS like it's not even funny. I mean, they've really done a good job at mimicking that. If this was even like their theme that they created, it could have just been something that they just downloaded and used. But I mean, like even these scroll bars here look very Aqua. Also, with the switch over to GNOME, they changed the file browser as well over to Nautilus, which is just a much better inclusion. I think that the previous one was kind of lame and, you know, a little bit funky at times just using it. This is a more traditional looking file browser. You got a sidebar. It's a much larger window by default. And you can see here in the dock, there is now a taskbar built into it. So we've got this window here. Since I've got the file browser opened, I can minimize it to the dock, though there's not a maximizing animation. It just comes back up, but there is that little one for minimizing. We can, of course, maximize the window. We can close it from up here. You've got your like little traffic lights, window controls, though they all just are the same color. Again, I'm just not over how much that this looks like Mac OS X. That's really the look they were going for, I guess. But where it differs is like the menu bar up here is not really a menu bar. I mean, yeah, you can get access to this main menu here, but all of the menus for the different applications you're in are still contained within those windows, so nothing shows up here. And then you do have a system tray up here with your calendar and your volume controls. There's a search function and your network status there. I have not actually gone in to see if there are any different themes in here, so let's see. There are. Okay, so we've got, although some of these just look like regular looking GNOME themes. In fact, yeah, this right here is just the regular Ubuntu theme. So we can change over to that if we want to. And you see that just really changes the design. Although, did it change the trash icon? I think it did. Yes, it did. Okay, so yeah, some of the icons do change. But, you know, this dock here is like its own separate thing. The menu bar up here does not change at all either, except for the system tray, of course. But this is just their gOS theme, which is, although there is, okay, there's two of them. Are these any different? I don't think they are. They look exactly the same. But I just can't get over the MySpace-centered aspect of this. I mean, it's cool, I guess, if you used MySpace a lot and wanted to really, you know, have a system themed around that where you just had easy access to the various, you know, parts of the website. But it just really seems way out of left field considering that they were just really Google focused prior to that. And they became Google focused again after this. Because version 3.1, the final release from early 2009, goes back to the way that things were in the earlier two versions. Although you can see that gadgets make a reappearance. However, these are now Google gadgets that you could have gotten through Google Desktop, which I made a video on back in like 2020, I think. So there's a lot more that you can choose from. This also utilizes GNOME instead of Enlightenment, so we have your menu bar up here, you have your regular context menu, and the dock has also changed once again. This looks more like it did back in the 2.0 beta version. Another big change is that now when you open up some of these applications, like Gmail for example, they open up in Mozilla's Prism embedded web browser, which just pretty much displays that one page, so they don't just open up in Firefox as different tabs now. However, some of them still do, like I think YouTube here. Nope, that one does. There was one, was it Blogger? Yeah, Blogger just opens up in Firefox. We also have a proper taskbar up here, so we can get access to the various windows that are opened up. And by this point, Firefox was updated to version 3.0. The theme, again, is very, very Mac-like. I know I'm kind of a broken record with that. And one of the cool things is they added Wine support, so you are now able to run some Windows applications just right out of the box on this thing, which is pretty neat. You got your desktop switcher up here. You have the Nautilus file browser once again, although the main focus of this release was the addition of Google Gadgets. I mean, version 3.0 was literally called the Gadgets release, and then of course 3.1 built on top of that. So you've got, you know, a few of them here just on the desktop by default. You can see most of these don't really load anything anymore. This just, whatever this was, has given us a 404. This weather gadget here doesn't appear to be loading anything. We got this flowers one, which I guess is just more of a, like, cool little thing you can have. Yeah, virtual flower pot, so you can just like water your flowers and stuff. You got a calculator, you got a calendar. Up here in the system tray, you can click on this icon to hide and show the gadgets. We can right click and go to add to get access to the gadget browser. I'm sure most of these in here, you know, especially if they pulled data from, you know, some server somewhere, probably aren't going to work anymore. Like the weather globe, I think we just, oh, and we can't even add that back. Can we? Can we not add any of these? Even the virtual flower pot, which we already have. Okay, well, there's Google Calendar. So I think we had this one open before. That's back. Yeah, yes, we did. Okay, so that still works. Google Gadgets Calendar. So, okay, we have two different calendars. It looks like, okay, we already have the calculator, but we can't add it. Maybe that's because we already have it. But like Wikipedia search, we don't have. Digital clock, we don't have. We can't get that. So it's looking like you can't even really download. And oh yeah, okay. Well, there's Google Calendar again. So you can open up multiple instances of the same gadget. Yeah, it's not looking like we're going to be able to download any of these, which is rather unfortunate, but not surprising considering that Google Gadgets has not been a thing for many years now. But, you know, if you were using this back then, you would have been able to add as many of those as you wanted, you know, of course, that your CPU resources would allow. I do want to explore some of the menus again. Like, I'm curious about the system preferences. It doesn't seem like there is a dedicated system preferences menu anymore. I mean, well, there is just this list here, but you know how in the early 2 versions we had like a dedicated program where you could go in and view everything. It doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. These are all just separate panels now. That's also the way it was in the MySpace release as well. So you got all your preferences here, you have administration stuff. Now, is this dock the same dock from the 2.0 beta release? I'm not really thinking it is, because I just tried to drag something off of it, and that did not work. Can we right-click? Well, we can do that, whatever you want to call that. So you can't, like, get to a menu from here. Okay, I finally found it. It's the WBAR Conf program that is in Accessories. This is where you can change what's in the dock. So this is totally different from the bar that we had in all of these other releases so far. You can go in here and, like, if you want to get rid of Gmail, we can do that, and you have to hit refresh. And okay, look at that. So hitting refresh, apparently I did not change anything else but removing Gmail. Now we have an outline on the dock. Yeah, look at this background image. So there was an image before, I guess, that was like making it transparent, because I guess there's no transparent setting, so they just took part of the wallpaper and put it there. So now if we go and change this over, no, never mind. Okay, so how do we get rid of, maybe if we hit refresh? There we go. Okay, so I guess you have to go in to, like, when you change the wallpaper, you have to go into the dock settings, hit refresh, and then it will get rid of that, like, outline there. But that's interesting that it does that. It kind of, like, takes part of the... Actually, it looks like this is for the magnification, because you can see when I hover over these, nothing goes outside of this box. Even like the bar there goes, you can faintly see it, but it goes to the edge. So it like takes part of the desktop and then uses that as like a background image, I guess, to just layer the magnification on top of. So then you would have to go in and hit refresh every single time for it to like redraw that. And we can set the Skype logo as the background image, which is oh yeah, Thunderbird. Let's do that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, look at that. Oh, and that's straight up the macOS mail icon. It's called Thunderbird.png, so they were straight up taking icon. I mean, I'm pretty sure that looks like it. Why don't we change, let me change this back to the OS bar pack, and then change the Firefox icon to the Thunderbird one, because now I'm curious. That looked exactly like, yeah, that's literally the macOS mail icon. They just grabbed that from OS X. That's hilarious. I don't think Apple would be too pleased about that, guys. But hey, they can't really do anything now because this operating system hasn't been a thing for years now. Like I said, this was the final version that came out in January of 2009. And it was around that time when the people behind gOS started work on another operating system called Cloud. Just Cloud, not Cloud OS or anything like that. So they're going with a really simple name here. And the really fascinating thing about this is basically Chrome OS before Chrome OS. I mean, the whole operating system looks to be just a web browser. You have shortcuts down here that I assume are going to open up just other websites. There is this boot to Windows icon, and you have your power controls over here. And it said it was optimized for netbooks. And this was in January of 2009. That is before Google announced Chrome OS, which happened in July. And this appears to be the last thing that this company did, at least on their website, because this is the final snapshot that I was able to grab from the Wayback Machine on October 1st, 2010 that still loads anything. After that, you just get this site temporarily unavailable error. And today, if you go to thinkgos.com, you just get a 404. Now, I think I already know the answer to this question, but if you guys would like to see a video about Cloud, assuming that I can find any ISO images of it, be sure to let me know, because I've not looked into this any further than just this like kind of surface level stuff here for this video, because it was kind of beyond the scope of what I wanted to do. But it looks like there was a laptop that sold with this, and I'm assuming Windows as well, because I mean, the fact that you have this boot to Windows option, it kind of makes me think this was going to be something like Phoenix Hyperspace, which Cathode Radio did a video on a while back. Those like pre-boot operating systems. There was one that I vividly remember using. I think it was from HP, and it came on a HP laptop that my family had at the time. And it was, yeah, this like little, you know, miniature OS that you could boot into before Windows loaded. So if that's what they were trying to do here, that would be pretty cool. Well, this right here certainly doesn't look like a good sign. It says currently pre-installed on specific hardware only. So I'll have to look and see if I can find this, or hey, if anybody watching happens to you know, have some more information about this, be sure to let me know, because I'm definitely interested. But that is pretty much going to wrap it up today. That is a run through of gOS, the Google-centered operating system, not actually made by Google. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.